Welcome to the Canepa workshops. What we have here is probably my favorite car, the Porsche 959. The Porsche 959 was really probably Porsche's first supercar. It was designed and the concept was made in 1983, and at that point they were working around the thoughts that it would be a Group B car for the Group B regulations, and the prototypes were built. Eventually Group B for these kind of cars was eliminated due to the danger. Basically, the cars were getting so fast. This car went on to be one of Porsche's most technologically significant cars. What was important about the 959 was that it was really the future of the 911. At that point in time, Porsche was really at a decision-making crossroad. The plan was to eliminate the rear-engine Porsche as we know it and build front-engine water-cooled cars. Luckily, the powers to be, which was then Peter Schutz, the new president of Porsche, and Helmut Bott, decided that they would build the ultimate 911 and prove that the car had a long future. And as we know, it has had a long future. This was that car. So Porsche went on to build in 1987, 1988, approximately 290 of these cars. That's all there are in the world today. They were originally not brought to the United States. We were instrumental in making that happen, as we had some very important customers that wanted to have the car here and drive it. I actually had the first car in the United States in '87, which went on to become Paul Allen's car. Then we got a car for Bill Gates, and then the rest is history. We now have legal 959s. Along the way, we have spent a lot of time developing this car further. It was 20 years ahead of its time when we first saw it, and we've continued to advance the car because it was such a great chassis and car to work with. And oh, by the way, this car raced in the 961 form at Le Mans, at the 24-hour Daytona, and won the Paris-Dakar. Today, we have taken this car to a completely different level. The cars are now 33 years old, and so part of what we're doing now is basically reimagining or remaking this car from the ground up. What you see here is one of these 959s. Actually belongs to a checkered flag member, and it's just here for service right now. And what you see over here is a bunch of these 959s going through all the processes to get rebuilt into our reimagined cars. Starting with this silver car, this is what I call a donor. So this is a car we recently purchased in Japan. This car was purchased new by Nissan so they could evaluate Porsche's systems. When we bought it, it was obviously all together, but we're starting to take it apart. But this is what we buy. This is a 1,400 kilometer car, not even driven 1,000 miles. And now we will use this car and completely disassemble it to just the bare body and then rebuild it from there up, completely rebuild it. So here is a car in the beginning of assembly. This was also a silver car, like the car you saw being disassembled. We took it down to a completely bare body, restored all the body, prepped the body, and repainted it. This customer wanted a white car. Every component on the car is restored, rebuilt, refurbished, or upgraded. Every piece of hose, every clamp, every nut, every bolt, every fitting. Upgrades include our coilover suspension, which replaces the hydraulic coilover suspension, so it bolts in the same componentry. And there wasn't an S version of this on the 959S. This is our more modernized version using titanium springs, our Penske shock absorbers. As you can see, everything's replated, everything's refinished. Parts that were painted are now powder coated. Basically, everything's brought back to brand new. In this process, the air conditioning HVAC system is upgraded. It's the same system, but it's rebuilt to be better than it was originally. We do the same with the brakes. We'll see another car with brakes on it. We've upgraded the brakes in terms of the rotor diameter. They're now floating rotors, better brake pads. We've eliminated the oil door, the suspension oil door. The 959S never had the door. The Comfort version did, so we get rid of that door on here, and basically this is a composite quarter panel, so we basically mold in a composite part to get rid of that door. And as you walk around this car, you just see that everything looks brand new, because in fact it is. We have upgraded wiring harnesses for all the engine systems, because we've upgraded all the electronics in these cars and the engine management system. And then this car is starting its process on the interior getting put back together with an entirely new interior. Part of what we do is we let every customer pick their colors. Porsche has more than 150 paint to sample colors or colors they've used over the years. We basically like to refer to those colors because they have so many great colors, and then rebuild the cars. Of course, this is Grand Prix white, and then this car has a graphite leather going in it with silver stitching. But the idea is to have customers pick new colors. So far of the first 15 cars, they're all different colors at this point. And we're trying not to duplicate any colors, at least not duplicate them to where they're the same interior and exterior no matter what. There may be a couple white cars or a couple of this, but they'll be different in one way or another. If we move over here, we see a car further along in the process. This car now has the brakes on it with the new rotors and everything. It's got, this is our new wheel and tire. These cars originally came in production with a 17-inch wheel. Porsche designed the car for an 18-inch wheel. In 1986, when they were ready to start production, there was no 18-inch tire. They had to back up and go to reduce the size of the wheel to a 17. We have taken the 17-inch wheel design, redesigned it so it's an 18 diameter of the same wheel, have the wheel remade in the magnesium with the hollow spoke, TUV tested, etc. So we now have 18-inch wheels with the latest Michelin tire, and we've gone to a wider footprint on the car, a little bit in the front and quite a bit more in the rear. And again, you can see all the pieces on the car now as it comes together. This car was originally a silver car also, but it's now granite, which is a Porsche color. And we're doing matching granite leather interior, and we're doing the old school looking Porsche carpet, the 356 carpet style carpet, which is really pretty timeless. And then as you go around this car, you just see there's more pieces. And this now has the full drive assembly in it, the front axle assemblies in it for the front drive. These are all-wheel drive cars, all the drive systems, all the oil systems, everything. So this car is much further along. And then the last car we'll look at is this green car. And this car now is basically lacking very little. The fuel tank's yet to be put in, the front bumper cover. But this car now is getting all the pieces put on the car. The engine will be last. This car has its interior in it. Again, this was another silver car, and we did it in basically the Irish green type color from Porsche. We did the interior of this car in a mahogany leather, a custom-made mahogany colored leather with green stitching. And part of what we do is everything inside is leather, even parts that were never leather from Porsche. Everything is covered in leather now. We add the new Porsche radio, the new classic radio, which has nav and Bluetooth, etc. We do the upgraded factory Porsche speakers, so we end up with a 6-speaker car now instead of 4. And now you kind of see how it's coming along as we get closer. We've done some great cars. We did a liquid metal silver car. We've done a seal gray car. We've done tangerine. We've done viper green. We've really done some awesome colors on these cars to date. The next car, that silver car that you saw that's coming apart, will be signal yellow. Yeah, it's fun doing these cars. As far as driving these cars, they're just awesome. The engine in the 959 is a 2.85 liter twin turbocharged engine. And it was originally a Porsche race engine. It was the engine architecture for the Indy car that never raced in the late 70s, and then it became the engine for the 936, the 956, the 962, and the GT1. So it's an air-cooled with water-cooled 4-valve heads. So the engine was always designed to have a substantial amount of performance. I shouldn't say a fair amount. And so was the drivetrain. The drivetrain of this car was designed for 825 horsepower because, in fact, they were going to race it. So today, we have taken this engine and increased its performance dramatically. It originally was built with 450 horsepower and 370 foot-pounds of torque. Today we're developing well over 800 horsepower and 650 foot-pounds of torque on pump gas. We've upgraded the pistons, the connecting rods, the camshafts, the valves, the springs, the entire ignition system, the injectors. We no longer have a distributor. It's all coil packs like a modern car. It's all whole new engine management system from Motec, all new wiring harnesses, and the most modern Borg-Warner turbos, which are really what's being used on a lot of today's production cars. That's where the power comes from. I mean, and that's where the power comes from in lots of new cars, is all the development in engine management systems and turbocharging and ignition systems, etc. So really, we've just taken the original engine and rebuild it with modern components, ancillary components on everything, and that's how we get the power. The results are phenomenal. The car is now a 0 to 60 mile an hour car in 2.5 seconds. It does the quarter mile in the 9s. And the top speed is, well, we know it's 230. I haven't gone faster, so we know that. But it's also a real driver's car. It is comfortable. It's 3,000 pounds, so you can throw it around. You can slide it through the corners. It's a 6-speed manual transmission, and it was a 6-speed manual transmission in '83. So between the braking system and the transmission and the whole drivetrain in the car, and now the performance level, there's not much in a modern car that will run any faster than this car. Typically, the cars that are faster are not nearly as comfortable and road practical. This car you could drive all day long with no fatigue. I've done it plenty of times. I mean, other than stopping to get a bite to eat, you just want to keep driving. It's got great visibility. It's got luggage space. It's quiet if you want quiet. We got a switch if you want it louder. I can't say enough about this car. And it's hard to imagine this is 30 plus years old and is still a modern car. So the 959 is the ultimate evolution of the 911. It really, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's all-wheel drive. It has incredible grip. It's comfortable. It's fast. It's the size of a 911, of an early 911, so it's a great size car. It's a sports car, and lots of cars now are either more focused to being a track car first before they're a road car, or they're big GT touring cars. It's really the truest of sports cars, and it's a car that I've always loved from the first time I had a poster on the wall, and of course now it's been a 30-plus year affair with this car, from finding ways to certify for the United States and meeting all kinds of great customers along the way that have bought these cars. I think we've had probably 70 of these cars plus go through our facilities over time. The challenges of finding them all over the world to buy them and do this process now. These cars here, we call these the 959 SC, which is really the reimagined version. We're not going to build more than 50 of these. I'm not sure we'll even find enough cars to build 50 of these. That would be the goal, and they're all numbered, and every person has a very personalized car of his own, and I have my own, and it's the one car that I have that every time they're not stealing parts off my car to test something, every time it's together, it's the car I drive the most. I think in one short time I put 8,000 miles on it in 30 months, so it is the go-to car. And it's timeless. It's really a car that's never gone out of style. And it's also a car that puts a smile on everybody's face, the people that own them, the people that get to ride in them, and the people that get to see them. It's amazing how many times I've gone somewhere and people will walk up and ask if it's a real 959. I've had some really funny stories with that. I was somewhere and somebody walked up, a couple of people, and they asked if it was a real 959, and I wasn't sure whether to answer them or not. You don't even know if, who they are. And then I said yes, and then as they walked away, I heard them basically say, "I don't think so. Those aren't allowed in the country. That can't be a real one." And it was funny. The next time somebody asked me that question, I answered the opposite. I said, "No, it's not a real 959." And that person walked away and said, "That's a real 959. That guy's not telling you the truth." So that makes it about as much fun as it could be. But it's still a car that draws people to it everywhere it goes. Doesn't matter where I park it. It's not a car that's garish. It doesn't have big giant wings and flaps and downplanes and oversized wheels. I mean, it's a very understated car, like most of Porsche's cars. And yet it's respected everywhere we go. And everybody that looks at it and looks at the quality of how things are built on it and how advanced it was, you you have to really respect this car even today. So a little bit about this process. We have been searching all over the world for 959s for some time, and now we're really focused on finding what we call the donor cars. We want the best original examples. We want the cars that were taken care of, not ignored, not beat up or misused. We want the best cars. It's always better in any process, whether it's restoration or otherwise, to start with the best example, not the worst example. So that's the first step in this process. The next step in the process is to basically disassemble this car and rebuild it. And we're at a point now where